do it.
What are we doing?
What?
What are we doing?
Fetch the Bolt Cutters, John Malkovich.
Alright, so today's album is Fionna Apple's Fetch the Bolt Cutters. This, I found out about by going on to Pitchfork, right, who I respect as a magazine publication. Occasionally they get a little esoteric. They get a little bit kind of caught up in their own avant-garde kind of...
Which is weird because they're the most mainstream. This is like the only really public music review source, I feel.
Right, exactly. It's one of the most mainstream ones, but essentially at times I think they just look for anything that sounds really weird and different.
Right.
So I was
like if IGN was like super pretentious.
yeah, which I want IGN to be.
Yeah.
Instead of just like taking ad money and giving whatever.
A nice medium would be fantastic.
Yeah. If only there's two guys that was trying to do that. But so Fetch the Bolt Cutters, this got a 10 out of 10 on Pitchfork. 10 out of 10. Perfect review. The only other 10 out of 10 I've seen is My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which is actually a 10 out of 10. So this
6
one...
6 out of 10 if you ask me.
Yeah, exactly. Get out of here. So when I saw that, and it also got #1 album of the year.
On what?
On Pitchfork. So they absolutely loved this album. What are your thoughts of that?
Yeah. Yeah, you can't really argue it's not a 10 out of 10. There's not a lot of... Okay. It's hard to... I don't know... Well, this is a milestone for Colors and Quips, because this is the first thing you've recommended or that you've had me listen to that I would actually consider looping into my regular music.
Interesting.
Yeah. Whereas, like, closest was Outcast, but even that one I more, like, academically appreciated and then didn't want to listen to again. But this one was, like, early on, I was already... What genre? Where does this fall?
Well, so that's the thing, right? The genre, it really does blend throughout multiple genres. I would say it's written almost kind of like song... show tune
this
type.
Felt like it was one of those things where I didn't look for the genre, but it felt like one of those things where you look for the genre and it would say like singer-songwriter,
right?
Which is not which I dig, because it was a lot of like, this was the first thing that we've listened to that felt like it wasn't trying to either push a genre forward or play with like the definition of a genre. It felt like it was tailoring the music around what each individual, like it felt like it jumped around so much because she had something different she was trying to get across every time.
Yeah, exactly.
And everything ended up in service of that, which is cool.
Yeah, but just to kind of give a perspective, right? This is a very weird sounding album. Yeah. Probably something you haven't really heard before, in the sense that on a lot of the songs, there's dogs barking, there's screaming, there's clanking metal, there's stomping, there's muttering, there's wood blocks banging against each other. There's kind of like chopped up vocal samples alongside like a little bit of nonsense gibberish, right? So it's like it has a bit of everything, but at the same time, I've never heard an album that sounds more structured, whereas when it's adding all these kind of different, unique, kind of crazy sounds. Tell me if you think this is right. The best comparison I could make to this album is what Billie Eilish should be. This sounds like a Billie Eilish album that wasn't held back and reined in by like executives saying like, we need to make sure this can go on the radio. This just sounds like, all right, we're gonna let it all hit the floor and see what it sticks.
It sounds like if you gave Billie Eilish like 25 years, which is kind of what Fionna Apple is. I mean, and it sounds a lot more focused, and it sounds a lot more. This is one of those cool examples of like, I'll never in film or music and anything, I'll never mind not knowing what's going on, as long as I get the sense that whoever made it knows what's going on. And it totally like, I mean, I locked in early when she started making dolphin noises on that first track. I was like, she's trying to tell me something. I'm gonna find out what it is.
Only I spoke dolphins. Yeah,
but that doesn't bother me I mean, that's good art to me. Is the best way that it can. I like it when something has enough to, it's not nonsense, like there's enough to grapple with on the surface, but it's good art is like a dream, because things make enough sense that you can follow along with. There's this whole world of abstract, like things that are working more on a subconscious level than anything else.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I want to talk about that point you were saying where, it's been a while in the making. In 1998, she got nominated for Best New Artist, right, which is obviously a pretty big award. She won for her song Criminal, Best Female Rock Vocal Performance. Right, and then 2001 got nominated again for Best Female Rock Vocal Performance for Paper Bag, which is a pretty decent song if you know that one. then got nominated again 2003, 2006, 2013. So like she's been on the scene for a while and people have been respecting her work. But before it was really just pure kind of pop with a little bit of alternative mixed in. And here it just sounds like the pandemic got to her and she kind of just went all out.
It's a great 2020 album for sure. But another thing that also, like, I don't know how much this plays into things are, like, she is someone who publicly has, she's had some public relationships that have been really interesting. Like, I know she was with Paul Thomas Anderson for a while. I think she was with Louis C.K. for a bit. And she's, made no bones about, like, she's come out and been like, yeah, these guys were the worst. And there are a lot of, like, in the lyrics of this album, there's definitely a lot of, like hashing out her identity as it relates to who she's with, or like how whoever she's with is trying to stifle out her inner life, or trying to control that. And it's just a weird, I don't know if you know anything about her personal, I don't know very much about her personal life, but I know like she's come out and said some interesting things about famous powerful men that she's been with.
Right.
It's interesting when like you look at those two things together, because it gives some of the tracks a different sort of context.
Sure. And, and the one thing I really, really like is that a lot of times in music, what I think about is, all right, if you're going to put some crazy stuff on this, what are you going to rein back in? And what's going to make sure that you know where you are within the song? Mm-hmm. And for here, there's nothing musically there or instrumentation-wise because, right, you have this sporadic drumming, which is kind of all over the place. There's not really a clear instrumentation that sticks throughout any song. But what's great is that she really, on her best tracks, she's keeping a really clear structure. Like you hear the chorus, that's the chorus. It comes back, you're like, okay, we're back at the chorus. Then some other stuff happens. She improvs, come back to the. So it's nice that she's making sure that there's these clear roadblocks. Whereas other artists, which I've found, like they're just like, all right, this is super empty and kind of open and mysterious, unique sound world I'm creating, and I'm not going to tether it to anything. But it was nice that she recognized, all right, this still needs to be able, you still need to be able to follow where I am.
Well, that's kind of what I was talking about, where I was like, I'll follow you anywhere as long as you give me a breadcrumb. Right. Just let there be something tethering me, so my mind, your mind has to work on two different levels, and part of it the first thing to anchor you anywhere is you have to know that there is a story being told that you can follow. And then that's the tip of the iceberg, and underneath it is all of the dolphin noises and the whatever, which is amazing. That's a cool right. It's also just reassuring to know that she knows that's where you sell your audience on bear with me, because this A story makes sense. You can trust that the B story makes sense even if you can't make sense.
Right, of course. I'll be real in that saying at least for me, there's some songs that totally did not work. Okay. In my opinion, I think the vast majority, right? It starts off with "I Want You to Love Me," which was just beautiful. You hit that song and you're like, okay, I'm intrigued. It's a lot to go into an album. And some would say I think this is a masterpiece. And after the first song, you kind of can already get on board. And I think if you want, "I Want You to Love Me" is definitely that song. And then she goes into Shamika, Fetch the Bolt Cutters, Under the Table. Those first four are just she's just banging it out there. And then Relay, that gets a little too disjointed.
Musically or lyrically, or
that's what I'm saying though. I thought with the songs I picked up specifically, and now this is I think it's a 13-track album. And it was the songs Relay, Newspaper, For Her, and On I Go. And a lot of them all of them came towards the end. And interestingly, they were never back to back for me. So it was kind of all right, she lost me here. Now we're back. This song is great.
The ones you just named are the ones that kind of lost you?
Yeah, exactly.
For Her?
What was wrong with For Her? Let's use that as a case study. I want to hear you. Because that one, I don't by name, I don't remember all the other ones, but I remember that being one that really worked for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess when I don't... Because there's so many... For Her right now, I listened to this album multiple times. I still can't think of the chorus of it. It just didn't stick with me. And all the other ones, I could sing the chorus for you right now and what specifically stood out to me and what tethered me to the music. And, Rack of His, do you remember that song? Okay. That one just, I thought, had really, really genius lyrics.
I do remember. About the
it was look at that rack of him, look at that neck of guitars, or row of guitar necks. So a lot of them just have those kind of clever lyrics that even make you stick to it and understand the song. And that's the best part. It's not necessarily like, oh, okay, this is just a catchy chorus. Rack of His, I thought that was an example where it's like I was invested in her lyrics and her storytelling ability there.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I was able to follow her throughout. But a lot of times, on the four I just named, it just felt like, okay, there's nothing with me that's going to make me want to either come back to this song or necessarily see it as a bridge between other works within the album. You know, like when I think of and I would kind of, you know, because I've already been listening to like other kind of Grammy nominated end of the year list songs, and a lot of times it's like, all right, one of the most beautiful things about music, and especially like the work of an album, is that each record either needs to one stand on its own, right, and be able to come back to it and actually have like a full, almost, you know, miniature story arc, right, like a piece of, you know, the overall plot, just like a movie, right? Or two, be some connective tissue between grander works, right? And if it's not satisfying one of those two purposes, either contributing to that sound world, making sure that, you know, everything is kind of coming together and meshing and molding and fitting into place, then I find it distracting, and therefore, and like I kind of want to get it out of the way, and that's what I found with just those 4 songs, and that's kind of heavy criticism because the other ones, you know, I think absolutely work, but because it's 13 songs, I almost wish that she, you know, like if 1 or 2 completely forgivable, but I think 4 that's starting to take up like 25% of, you know, the space.
But I want to go back to For Her because it's just the one of the 4 that I remember the best. You don't feel like that because to me I can tie that pretty directly with like Under the Table, and I can see a through line there as far it's loose. It's not telling a continuous story, but they both kind of feel like they're grappling with like identity in relation to a relationship, and like almost like sardonically with For Her, because it's just this like really hands-off idea of like if I leave my shit here, take it, it's for you, you're the next one, like, you know, be almost sarcastically like I don't matter, I'm you know, we're just models of things that are, you know, you're getting the next one. And I feel like that ties pretty well, you know, like it's messier, it's not a story, so I get that frustration. And maybe,
but again, like with Under the Table, what I really liked about it is, yes, they're definitely thematically very similar, but I had the, you know, kick me under the table all you want, you know, was it I won't back down, or I won't grow up, or something like that. Yeah, I won't shut up. That's right. Yeah, I won't shut up. So I'm saying like it's you know, and she kind of has that big, almost choir type like scene stopping spotlight on me. Like it really felt like a show tune there, and I was like, Chicago. Yes, this is crazy. Yeah. So that for me, it was like, oh wow, I can totally get in on this song because I had this kind of centerpiece, which is almost the thesis for the song. But for her, I never felt like there was kind of a core. You know, that's it's almost like that's another way of thinking of it, is like I need a core, I need a center to the song. You know, like I need something of which there's a clear foundation, and then you can build whatever shit you want on top of that. But if there's no foundation, then everything crumbles down for me. And you know, that foundation, you know, as a bass player, right? That's what I love about the bass and just kind of the backing. Jazz, right? You got bass and drums. Rock, kind of the same. Well, rocky kind of everything's the foundation. You know, the vocals are kind of on top of that. And as you know, and that's kind of the other thing as well with music. It's like how uncertain or unsturdy of a foundation are you comfortable with? You know, like I find like for a lot of, you know, like music teachers I had in college, it was like, I don't even need a foundation, man. Build it on stilts. You know, like nothing scares me.
I think that's why I was okay. I'm just using For Her because it's what I remember. But like for that song, I was okay with the premise being the foundation, which is a lot. That's almost a cop out. That's almost not fair. But I thought the storytelling premise of like using a different girlfriend to be that is enough that I didn't need much of a musical through line.
Sure.
I don't totally remember the structure of it. Is it without a chorus? Is it just completely?
But that's the thing. I honestly don't I don't remember it exactly. I don't remember there being a really clear great chorus in it. I'd have to listen to it again. Mm-hmm. I just remember. I kind of, when I was listening to it, what I like to do sometimes is, with an album kind of as complex as this, which is I think tough to break down, just because one thing for certain on this album, which I love, is that if you got rid of all the track names and listened to it as one complete album, it would also work, right? Like that, and that's a great test. It's like, can I just close my eyes, not know what song I'm on, and it just flows? Yeah, absolutely, which is a sign of a great work. But then when my second test after that is, all right, let me write down kind of individually, like evaluate these songs on a piece by piece basis. And when I did that, I found the overwhelming amount was like, yes, this works individually, but those ones, like for her, I was like, no, this doesn't to me stand as...
You wouldn't just throw it on a playlist.
I wouldn't throw it on a playlist, but it also what didn't seem to be necessary as connective tissue in the song. But but the final thing I want to talk about is, do you think it's a 10 out of 10? Do you think it's the best album of the year?
I've listened to like 5 albums. I don't know.
So it's number 1 of 5.
Best. I mean, I don't know what the criteria for best album of the year is because it's such a like.
No, so it's your own criteria. I think.
Yeah, it's not the album that I heard this year that most like stuck with me.
Okay.
It did though. I mean, I'm gonna go back to this for sure, which is the first of I don't know how many we've covered, like 5 or 6 albums now, and this is the one that I'm gonna return to. Yeah, I get it. I no, it's not my album of the year, but I get it. I'm not outraged. I'm not like taken by surprise. That's an interesting. Is it up for best record?
So it's not. It's up for best alternative record.
It's where the cool kids go anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, frankly, I think it's absolutely ridiculous it's not nominated for best album of the year. It's certainly a best album of the year nomination. That's what I came away with after the album. Is it a 10 out of 10? I think that's a little bit of a stretch. Then again, 2020 was a pretty light year in music.
Right. So. I mean, I'm racking my brains for what else came out this year. You got the Blink-182 Australian guys. That's the only other 2020 album I can think of. There's the 2 Taylor Swift ones.
Right. I mean, I have there's kind of a bunch here that ones I would personally like. But...
What do you throw over Fiona?
I really like the Run the Jewels album. Run the Jewels 4 was great. Everything is okay above Wild Soho, which I know you don't like.
I would put this above Wild Soho.
Bad Bunny had an album that I really liked. Sam Hunt, Southside was great. So like, there's a bunch kind of on my head that just. I'm not even saying those albums are necessarily better, but.
Are any of those 10 out of 10?
No, that's the thing.
Okay.
I wouldn't give any of those 10 out of 10. I would give an album a 10 out of 10. That I haven't mentioned, but
okay.
I'll keep that for later. But until then,
it's the Being John Malkovich soundtrack.
Yeah, let's do it.